Eric McCalister, Josh Hoover, Ryan Hughes, Devin Deal, Marcus Deal. These are the names that will tell the story of the TCU football season.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. Thank you for making Locked On Horned Frogs your first listen. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're going to discuss some of your thoughts about maybe the best team in TCU history. That'll be in segment 3. But the main focus of today's show, 5 players on offense, 5 players on defense that will tell the story of TCU season. I did something similar to this before spring camp, but post spring camp into the summer workout program as we approach the fall, I want to revisit this now that we have a better idea of who this team is. I've told you all offseason, it's about continuity for this TCU team with the roster and with the coaching staff. So who are the 5 players on offense? They're going to decide and keep this in the balance this year. Well, the first one is obviously Josh Hoover. Captain obvious here. I'm going with the quarterback. Josh was such a big part of what they did last season. And it wasn't just on the field, even though he threw for almost 4,000 yards. He had some turnovers early in the season. He figured that out as the year went on. But let me tell you this too. His leadership, his intangibles showed up in a big way in the back half of that season. Because the last 2 years, something the Frogs are going to have to figure out this season, they've gotten out to slow starts. You have the disaster against Colorado a couple years ago in the season opener. That leads to later on, a loss to West Virginia. Suddenly things are going poorly. You don't show up on the road against Iowa State. Chandler Morris gets hurt. Things derail, right? Last season, similar story. You have a very uninspiring loss to UCF. You get the break speed off you by SMU. You fall to Houston on a Friday night. You're 3-3 headed into the bye week. Things look bleak. Now they turn things around. They change some things personnel-wise, move Savion Williams into the backfield a little bit, get him going at Wildcat quarterback. Josh cut down on the turnovers. Defense kind of stabilized and figured things out a little bit. But I think a big part of that was the team did not stop believing. We as fans maybe did, but the team didn't. And this is not me throwing Chandler Morris under the bus or saying that he has character issues. I don't know if that's true. Okay, I'm not going to accuse him of anything. But for whatever reason, there was a disconnect there. I don't think the team really believed in him. I don't know what the reason for that was, but that was just my take. Because even in the last part of that year, when Josh took over, I felt like you saw a more inspired club. Didn't really translate on the field. Got to win against Baylor, got to win against BYU. That was it. But you saw a team that fought more. Last season, you saw a team, those last 6 games, when they could have just laid down and things could have gotten ugly. And if that happened, maybe we're talking about a new coaching staff this year, but they figured it out. And they played really well. And I've said before, listen, I think Josh, I kind of hope his stats go down a little bit. And what I mean by that is my hope is TCU has a more balanced offense that allows him to not have to throw the ball 50 times a game and not be so one-dimensional. But regardless, he's going to have to play well for this team to be good, for this team to be successful. And if they're going to take the next step, a lot of it hinges on the arm of Josh Hoover. Eric McCalister. Super excited about Eric. Had a really productive year. Didn't play every single snap, but was effective when he did, over 700 yards. Now he's the dude. It's one thing to kind of be the 3rd or 4th option when you're talking about Jack Best, Savion Williams, even a guy like J.P. Richardson that was so steady in the slot. You're not sneaking up on anybody this year. You're not sneaking on the field. You were the guy on the outside, but I feel like Eric McCalister is prepared for this. And while we spent a lot of time throughout this offseason discussing what TCU can improve on from last year, we want to see a better running game. We want to see a better defense. I feel like something that kind of flies under the radar, that receiving core was so good last season. They were so good last year. Jack Besh with the Raiders now. Savion Williams with the Packers. I saw J.P. Richardson is making some waves at Bears OTAs. People are noticing him. You're replacing all of that. So you have to find a way to get at least close to what that receiving group was. And it's not one man's job, but Eric McCalister is going to be the person that we all circle and we all have our focus on as the season starts. Jordan Dwyer is going to be a big part of that too. Joseph Manjack as well. But on 3rd and 7, Eric McCalister will be the first option. When you need to stretch the field, he's going to be the first option. I believe he's ready for the moment. I think he came over from Boise State with this in mind, and maybe he thought last year would be the year where he would already be the dude, but he's patient. He was good and productive when he played. Now he gets a chance to be the guy. I could go with the entire offensive line here, but I will single out one person, and it's Ryan Hughes. This interior offensive line, there's some questions, but I really believe it might take a little bit of time. I think when the dust settles, Cade Bennett, Colton Deary, Carson Bruno, or Remington Strickland, that's going to be a good group. To me, the big kind of if factor here is you got 2 young tackles. Now, Ben Taylor Whitfield's played a lot of snaps because he's had to. It's not ideal, but hopefully it'll pay dividends this year. On the other side, Ryan Hughes came in and played as a freshman. If those guys are good, this team's going to be really good. And Bless Harris is one of those dudes, you're not going to reminisce about him 10 years from now, but he was a steady presence on that O-line, especially in pass protection. Had some tough moments, but overall was a solid player. And it can be hard to replace guys like that sometimes. So Ryan Hughes has a task in front of him, but I think he's up to the challenge. And then speaking of the run game, Nate Palmer or Jeremy Payne, I'll hedge and put them both in here. Somebody has to emerge. You've already got some clear and defined roles. Trent Battle, good change of pace back, good pass protector, can catch the ball in the backfield. He'll get opportunities. He's a winning player. He makes winning plays. You're not going to notice it each and every week, but he does. Kavorian Barnes, short yardage back. That's who he's going to be. That's what they brought him in to do. He's replacing that Trey Sanders, Dominique Johnson role from a year ago. Who's your lead back? Right? That's the huge question. And John Denman can be thrown in that mix too, but I'll stick with the 2 young guys who played last season. I like what Jeremy Payne can do. I do wonder with his frame and his style if he can be an every down back. I believe this competition is going to extend into the season. I don't love that personally, but I don't see a resolution happening in fall camp. I think those first couple weeks, they're going to give both those guys opportunities to prove that they can do the job and do it well and see who emerges. If I had to guess today, I'd say Nate Palmer, which is kind of odd because he wasn't, 11 carries for 33 yards in the bowl game. That was basically his season. And I said after the Kansas game, I was like, look, Jeremy Payne's the type of dude, he shows up when he's on the field. You notice him when he's on the field. Whether it was getting a block, I remember a big 4th down, Haas Haney taking a direct snap, Payne was out there blocking, or coming out of the backfield, making a catch, making some guys miss, did that in the Baylor game. There were just moments where he played well. I believe he'll be a factor on this offense. I'm just not sure he's going to be your every down back. And then finally, DJ Rogers, are you better at the tight end position this year? Because the tight end position last season with Drake Dabney was pretty much non-existent. I remember being excited about him when he transferred over. He had a nice year at Baylor. And it's a twofold thing. Rogers has shown an ability to catch the ball and make things happen over the middle. But where's the physicality coming from? Because when we discuss the run game, yes, a ton of focus on the offensive line, a lot of focus on your running backs for obvious reason. But it is a team effort. Your outside wide receivers got to buy into it. Your tight ends have to buy into it. That's a position where you're not always going to run a flag route or a corner route or go on a crossing pattern and catch the ball and make a play. Sometimes you have to put your hand in the dirt and throw somebody around. Is DJ Rogers ready to do that? If he is, that's a huge plus for this offense. When we come back defensively, who are the names that stand out? That's coming up next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. FanDuel, it's where the game starts. NBA Finals going on right now. And FanDuel has that great offer all the time. One $5 bet for new customers. You win that bet, you get to $200 in bonus bets. That's for new customers at FanDuel.com. I've told you about those futures bets when it comes to college football and specifically TCU. Over under 6.5 wins for the Frogs this year. I think you're stealing money by taking that over, right? 1.5 point dogs to UNC in the season opener. I respect Bill Belichick a lot, but that's a game that TCU should win if they are the team that we think they are. FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app. NBA Finals, same game parlays, live in-game betting. It's available to you. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. $5 in bonus bets get you $5 bet. You win that bet, you get $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel, official betting partner of the NBA. So defensively, who are your names? I'll start with Marcus Deal. And the entire defensive line is important. I hate to sound like a broken record, but there were games last year that TCU lost because of their play in the trenches. It's not just the trench play. Against UCF, they struggled to slow down RJ Harvey in that run game. That was not just the defensive line getting thrown off the ball. That was also safeties and linebackers having horrible run fits. Against Baylor, had some injuries on the D-line. That's another game that you lost in part because you lost the battle of the line of scrimmage. And it goes both ways. They also lost that UCF game because they couldn't milk the clock because, once again, we're not getting pushed on the line of scrimmage. But that's 2 games that you could have won. Really, I mean, the only game, like, this team is close. The only game where you look completely outclassed was SMU. And if you don't turn the ball over 500 times, I think that's at least competitive. And then Houston was just a disaster from start to finish. But Marcus Deal, if he can be a factor behind the line of scrimmage and be a presence in the run game, that's going to be massive for this team. The pass numbers were pretty good for this defense last year, but the reason for that was most people thought they could make their money just running the ball. And when offenses can do that, it just opens up the entire playbook. It allows you to do a lot of different things. It allows you to not be situationally impaired, meaning 2nd and 7, 3rd and 5. You still think you can run the ball and get a first down or at least get close. That's a beautiful thing for an offense, and that's a struggle for your defense. It's not just Marcus Deal. Ansel Denboon needs to be a part of that too. Whether it's Perry Cole or Kelton Mickle, I mean, there's guys here that need to step up. Tristan Johnson was a dude who made waves in camp. But Deal is the centerpiece of it on the interior defensive line. And his brother Devin is right there. This defense is predicated on creating pressure, giving one-on-one matchups to your pass rushers, and having them win those battles. We saw that at times with Devin Deal. We saw that at times with Cooper McDonald. He moves on, right? I think Devin's going to be a player. The depth behind him, we'll see. I like Jonathan Bax. We need to see it, though, in action. I really like Chad Woodfork. We need to see it happen. In that Stanford game, they showed flashes of it. The consistency wasn't there, though. I want teams to be fearful when they have a 3rd and long that they're facing. I want quarterbacks to be seeing ghost. I want their internal clock to be thrown off because of the pressure that TCU is applying time after time after time. That starts with Devin, the transfer from Tulane, who had an outstanding season, really came on towards the end of the year. He needs to make plays. He needs to get after the passer, get after the quarterback. That's going to make this defense so much better. And then that opens up the ability to bring more blitzes, to do some different things in your coverages. When you're winning those fundamental battles, those one-on-one matchups, then you can start to throw in those wrinkles that make defenses slam their head against the, or make offenses slam their head against the wall. So the Deal brothers are a huge part of this. Bud Clark, I'll give you a little inside baseball here. Locked On, we're putting together our own list of the top 100 players in college football. They asked me to submit 4 Frog players for consideration. The guys I picked were Josh Hoover, Eric McCalister, Marcus, and Devin Deal. The dude that was right there and that I really went back and forth on was Bud Clark. Because Bud is an impact player, man. He makes splash plays. Maybe one of the most important moments in TCU football history, the pick 6 to start the game against Michigan, to start the scoring against Michigan. They gave TCU the confidence to go win that ball game. That was Bud Clark at his best. He's had some tough moments taking gambles in coverage too, but you saw a revitalized and a rejuvenated Bud Clark last year. He's got a new safeties coach in Trey Watson, who is known to get his DBs to get after the football and make plays. If this defense can get turnovers, their ceiling goes way up. I'm not convinced they're going to be like a top 15 unit this year, but if you can get up to top 30 and you're creating turnovers every week and making life easier for your offense, playing complementary football, what a concept. That would be huge for this team. In this secondary, there's a lot of experience there. They need that back end of the defense to be solid and to be successful. Caleb Alarmzor. Another guy who's replacing a steady player. You know, Johnny Hodges took some heat. He had some limitations. Teams picked on him in coverage, in the passing game, but he was also very physical. He was good in the run game. And Alarmzor is taking over that spot. He's your Mike linebacker. He's your leader. He's the dude in the middle. I was a little surprised he didn't get more opportunities last season. I thought with the coaching change, that would be an open door for him because it wasn't like Andy Avalos had a prior relationship with Johnny Hodges that he felt some sort of loyalty to. But Caleb's had a full year in the system. He's had a full offseason now. He's a physical player. He comes downhill with bad intentions. Need him to be a leader. Need him to stay healthy because the depth at linebacker is concerning. You've got Nnamdi. You've got Max Carroll. You're bringing in Michael Thiessen from Missouri State. And then after that, it's some young guys. It's some true freshmen, honestly. So need him to stay healthy as well. But if he does, he can be a player. I think the athleticism is there. I think the physicality is there. It's just about putting it all together in a TCU uniform like he did when he led the team in tackles at Cal a few years back. Avery Helm on the outside, coming back from an ACL injury. Can TCU play man-to-man coverage with confidence this upcoming season? Do they have the ability to leave their corners on an island and say, hey, that's your guy, lock him up. We're going to bring pressure. We're going to do exotic things with our play calling. And we know that you got it, that you got that wide receiver. Because last year, Lamarian James, he stepped up and did it. JT Broughton did not. And they had to move some things around, shuffle some guys around. Channing Canada will be back. Javon McIvor, Vernon Glover. But to me, the big name is Avery Helm. I think Avery is a solid player. How healthy is he coming out of fall camp? Is he going to be 100%? That's one of the big questions for this TCU team. You cannot afford to get off to a rough start. You just can't do it. Can't do it again this year. So those 10 players are going to be imperative for TCU. Let me know in the YouTube comments if you thought I missed somebody. If you could evaluate or submit 4 players for the top 100 players in college football, who would it be off this TCU roster when we come back? Is the 2014 team the best team in history? We'll discuss that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Quick baseball note before we get to some audience reaction. Noah Franco announced that he's coming back in a post on X. He said, Frog ball was fun this year. Let's do it again. Just the world we live in now in college baseball. Didn't really know that there were any rumors or anything different, but good to see that public admission of, hey, I'm in this. I'm bought in. I'm here for the long haul. Noah's a fun player to watch. He can run into the ball and drive it out of the park. Noah and Sawyer Stroh-Snyder, that's a ton of hope for the future. If those guys can continue to get better, continue to get more consistent, that's a really good core for this team. And I'm ready to see what they do in the transfer portal. But you have a lot of good returning pieces. You lose Carson Bowen, that's a loss. Pretty much everybody else so far that's left were either players that didn't live up to kind of where they wanted to be, maybe dealt some injuries, didn't see the field as much as they would have liked. So they're moving on. But having Noah in the middle of that lineup is a big plus. Him hitting third or fourth next season is going to be really good for this team. And I know, Carson Bowen and Anthony Silva had big freshman years and then cooled off in their sophomore seasons. But I think the talent level and the ability and the power from both those freshmen is much different than the two guys that I mentioned earlier. All due respect to Anthony Silva and Carson Bowen. Noah Franco and Sawyer Stroh-Snyder have higher ceilings. And I just believe they're going to be really good players. On Wednesday's show, I talked about how ridiculous it is that the over-under for TCU is 6.5 and how you have to take the over. I went game by game. So a few of you chimed in. Tommy said I could see this team going 11-1, but I would not be surprised if they go 9-3. Anything less than 9 wins would be a major disappointment. The good thing is we will know early what kind of team we got. I totally agree with you, man. I think that's invaluable. It's going to be difficult. But those games against UNC and SMU, they give you a great window into who this team is. By week 3, by the end of week 3, you'll have a good idea of who this team is. That's not saying if they get off to a bad start, they can't turn it around. But that will tell you if they're a Big 12 championship type of contender. If they can win those games, especially if they can win them convincingly. But winning both those games would give me a lot of optimism for the future. But yeah, there's a ton of coin flip games. I mean, K-State on the road, that's tough. BYU on the road, that's tough. Arizona State on the road, the list goes on. You're playing Iowa State this year. There's a number of games that it's hard to look at it and say, okay, that's a dub. If you take care of business, that should be a dub. So that's a hurdle. But I agree with you. I think, that 9-11 win range is certainly possible. But anything less than 9, you're right, that's disappointing. I was okay with 8-4. I think it was good in some ways. I feel like 8-4 is a little underrated, but I've said this before, you have to build on it. If you don't build on it, then a lot of that momentum just kind of stalls out. If you build on it, you can kind of look back on last year fondly and say, okay, figured out how to win, did some things that improved you, and now you can move forward. Devil Frog says the standard here has to be 10 wins or more and a shot at the playoffs each and every season. I think that's fair. I mean, it's tough to do that each and every year. But when Texas and OU left, that was what a lot of us thought. We said, okay, TCU can be in the mix as one of those standard bearer schools for the new Big 12 conference. Like you mark it down every year. Okay, they're going to win double-digit games. They're going to be playing for a Big 12 championship shot in November. Those games are going to mean something. They didn't really mean anything as far as championships go last year. Ron says he thinks the Frogs go 10-2. Always enjoy your podcast. Go Frogs. Thank you, Ron. I always appreciate you listening. Thanks for making time for me and being a big supporter of the show. And then Tommy said he thinks there's no question 2014 was the best team ever at TCU. Josh Doxson was the best wide receiver to play at TCU, and Boykin was a cheat code. Atlas says he's partial to the 2009 or 2010 team. That 2014 team was ridiculous. And I agree with you, Tommy. Now I will acknowledge my own bias. I was not somebody who followed TCU avidly before I was a student. So, I mean, I've watched that Rose Bowl team play. I saw the Rose Bowl, but I wasn't watching that team every week. I got to school in 2012. So 2014 was my last year on campus. And I have a ton of fond memories about that group. So I'm partial to them. But that defense was really good. They were physical. They were mean. Davion Pearson was a dude on the inside. They made plays. And honestly, I believe if they had Jason Verrett for one more year and if Devontae Fields could have stayed on the team, that defense would have been even better. But they were really good. And offensively, they just had so many guys. I mean, we talked about the depth of the wide receiver room last year. Josh Doxson, Colby Listenby, Deontay Gray, Ty Slanina. I mean, the list goes on of just dudes who could get out there and make guys miss and make things happen. Aaron Green was such a stud. That O-line was really good. Paul Dawson was a great player. Marcus Mount. I mean, the list goes on. I believe that team could have and would have beaten Ohio State. And I'll stand on that. I know a lot of you think that too, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be watching this podcast. We'll be back on Monday. If you're wondering, into our 5 days a week schedule. Thanks for watching or listening to the show. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's Locked On Horned Frogs. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast.